All right, so we need to talk more about parabolas. We started last week and we looked at what this weird point called a focus is and the directrix. The directrix is this line labeled directrix right here. It's pretty tiny though. And then this distance is the same for both. But remember, if they line up, then this distance is also the p-value. Let me find one that has an equation. Here we go. If we had the, oh, this one doesn't, okay. Anyway, this p-value right in here, 4p, can you see that little 1.1 there? That p-value is the distance from the focus to the vertex or from the vertex to the directrix. And what made it go sideways? Yeah, when the y was squared, then it went sideways, okay? Let's see, what'll let me move here. And what made it really wide was a really big p-value. And what made it really narrow was a really tiny p-value. All right. Kelsey, did you have a homework question you want me to look at? So this is the bookwork that was assigned, and your question is about this one? All right, so, oh, I think no? If we just switch that around to x plus y squared, switch sides. So it lined up a little better with x minus h squared equals 4p y minus k. Is that what messed you up, that the sides were backwards? Otherwise, I don't think it's a very nasty problem. Okay, guys? So she just needed to switch the sides so that it lined up better with what's on the reference sheet. Anybody else? Did you have another one, Kelsey? Oh, what do you need me to do? Y minus k squared equals 4p x minus h. Okay, but this one is a sideways one. So you got to line up the right formula. Okay, we're going to do some of those, but let's just do them off the notes, okay? And then you can go back and try the homework. I don't want to do all your homework when it's not very many assigned anyway. Parabolas, so we have this vocabulary about focus and directrix, and then we also need to be able to write an equation. So this is what we're looking at the top of the yellow sheet. Everybody find this? Make sure you're on the right side of the yellow sheet, the one that has parabolas and ellipses. Did you get a yellow sheet? You good, Tristan? Okay. These are the forms. These are called standard form equations for parabola. I maybe need to check that vocabulary on the quiz. Okay. So when it's x quantity squared, it's up or down. Y quantity squared, it's sideways. And then here's the recipe for all that good stuff. So if we start with a quick review, this would be x minus h quantity squared equals 4p times y minus k. Who can tell me something? Keaton, tell me something. Yes? Can you tell me if it's going to open up or down? Good job. Because p over here, 4p is 8. So p is 2. X is squared, so Keaton says it's going to open this way. All right. Haley, can you tell me where the vertex is? What's h? Will that be easier? And k is? So the vertex is just always hk. Okay. So over 1 up 2 is the vertex. P is 2. So conceptually, can anybody just tell me how far or where the focus would be? Okay, that's the recipe, which is fine. You can use the recipe. But if this is the vertex and P is 2 and it's opening up, then 2 units up should be where the focus is, and 2 units back this way should be where the directrix is. All right, so now let's look at the recipe and see if that matches. What did it say for focus? H K plus P. Is that what it said? So that would be 1, comma 2 plus 2, or 1, 4 for the focus, which is where I drew it. And then the directrix has an equation of, the recipe says y equals A minus P, thank you. So that would be y equals 2 minus 2, or 0, which is the x-axis. Okay. Then the hardest part is trying to find a point to graph accurately. Does anybody remember where we put the value in? We said we got to plug a point in. Yeah, we want to plug it in for whatever's being squared. Okay. So the x is being squared here, and I want to pick something a little ways away from the x value of 1 of the vertex. So we could go 0, -1, we could go 2, 3. What do you want to try? You want to put in a 3. So we picked x equals 3. So then we'll have 3 minus 1 quantity squared equals 8 times y minus 2. What's 3 minus 1, guys? Squared is 4. Now what do? Divide the 8 because we don't want to take time to distribute. So we have 4/8, and then we're going to need to add the 2 over here. So if we add the 2 over, we get 2 and 4/8, or 2.5. So when we put in a 3, we got out a 2.5. So over 3 and up 2.5 is a point. So if you went the other side of this, you'd have another point because there's an axis of symmetry that we forgot to write down the equation for. That would be x equals 1 because it's right through the vertex. All right, so now we know it's kind of a little bit fat, which is kind of surprising considering P is 2. No, the fatter, yes, the bigger the p-value, the wider it is. So that's why it's wide. Sorry. That's probably the hardest part, is accurately graphing for those. All right, let's try another one, except do they give us the right form? No. This is kind of a mess. Does anybody recognize this though? We could complete this square. That's what we really need to do, but nobody recognizes that? Isn't that already completed? Because if you did y plus 3, because you did half of 6, right? And then you square it, you get that 9. So this one's kind of done for us. What about over here? It's supposed to say x minus h. If we take out a 12, we'd have 1 minus x. Yeah, if we took out a -12, we'd get this form a little nicer. So if we take out a -12, ugh, I didn't write that well. I'm just going to rewrite it. If it said -12x plus 12 is in the order we wanted, then we would take out a -12 so that we had x minus 1. Everybody okay? So now we have y minus k squared equals 4px minus h. Hannah, tell me something. Okay, h equals 1, k equals -3. So 1, -3 is the vertex. Excellent. Tara, can you tell me something? Anything. Which way it opens, or what P is, or... Good job. You set those equal. Dakota, can you tell me which way it's going to open? The y is squared, so that makes it what? Okay, either left or right, and the p is negative, so it's going to open left. Good job. Okay, so if the vertex is at 1, -3, it's opening to the left. So conceptually, can anybody tell me where I should go to put my focus? Yes, inside of the parabola 3 units because p is -3. And then 3 units back this way should be my directrix. Okay, but we'll go ahead and use the formulas. When it opens sideways, it says the focus is h plus p comma k. Anybody plug those numbers in for me? What's 1 plus -3? And k is -3. Is that where our focus wound up? -2, -3? Okay. And the recipe on the sheet for directrix is x equals h minus p, which would be x equals 1 minus -3, be careful, which is 4. Is that where we wound up over here at x equals 4? And the axis of symmetry would go right through the vertex here. The recipe on the sheet says the axis is just y equals k. I don't even think I asked for the axis on the quiz because there's too much on here then, I feel like. All right. So to find a point, we need to go and put in a value for x or y. The quantity that's squared is what we want to put it into. The y at the vertex is -3. So I could go a couple units either way. I could even go to 0, but what do you want to try? A couple units away from -3. Okay. Y equals -5. If I put in a -5, all right, and you could have, I suppose, gone back to the original and solved that way too, but -5 plus 3 is -2 squared is, and then we're going to need to divide by that -12 on the other side and add 1. Might want to use a calculator. This is -1/3, but if we add 1, we'd get 2/3. Is that right? Anybody typing? Okay. So the ordered pair would be 2/3 -5. You don't even have, you can give me decimal, anything, because this is just trying to estimate how to graph it. So we would go right almost to 1 and down 5. P was -3. The negative just makes it open. The negative makes it open to the left. The absolute value of P, that distance, is still a big number, so it's wide. I didn't hit my dots very well. How are we doing? Feeling like it's coming back to you from Friday? We have another one to just graph, but this one is definitely not looking completed the square ready, right? Anybody remember what we always do when we complete the square? The first step is always to gather the x's and the y's. Yep. Now the x is squared, so maybe I'll leave the x squared over here. How would I move this 6x over there with it? I have to add 6x, and then I'm going to put a blank. I could leave the 21 on that side or move it. It doesn't matter. I think I'll just move it over here. Now the only y we have is a negative 20y. If we subtract 21 over to the other side, then this becomes negative 89. Did I do that right, guys? Oh, thank you. Yeah, this is negative 20y. That will make it very confusing. So that's negative 20y, and then all the constants are over here if we have a negative 89, but we're still going to have a blank. So we gathered our x's and y's, and I went ahead and put some blanks in. So this quantity, anybody? Squared, we get 9. So over here we have negative 20y minus 80. What do we need to do to finish making that look more like the form on our sheet? A negative 20? Yep. So we'd have y plus 4. We took out a negative 20, factored out a negative 20, so that we had a form that was like x minus h quantity squared equals 4p y minus k. Do you want to go through the rest? Want to try it on your own? You try to find all the information we need? Don't pay attention to me. Try it on your own. Someone get a vertex of -3, -4?
Yeah.
Anybody have a focus? Is mine right? -3, -9? 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Does barely fit on the bottom. And then y equals +1 appears the directrix. Did anybody else get those values? Okay, then the tricky part. Anybody put a value in yet? How about 0? Yeah, so we want to see where it crossed the y-axis. So we're going to put in x equals 0. And I'm going to put it into this one right here, the nicely formed one here. 0 plus 3 squared equals -20 y plus 4. And I really don't care if it comes out nice. Let's see, this would be 9 divided by -20 and then subtract 4. So I have -9 divided by 20 minus 4. get negative 4.45. Did anyone else get that? Okay. And that was a y value when the x was 0. It's just an estimate, so it crosses here at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 4.5. So it's just a point to give us some, whoa, if I could draw, give us some idea of how wide this thing is. I also forgot the axis of symmetry. Let's see, x equals negative 3. Did anybody have it? Because it should just be going right down the middle through that. All right. We have another one? Oh, this is the one that's like on the quiz, maybe? I think it is. Important. On quiz. Okay, I'm not sure the one looks exactly like this on the quiz, but you want to put the squareds, let's just rewrite it. 2x squared plus 20x plus 8y equals negative 34. So all I did is switch sides because we're used to the squared on the left, I think. So what do we need to do? Yeah, isolating the x's and y's. So I have the x's over here when I put a blank. We really don't need it yet, but what do I need to do with that 8y? Yeah, I'm going to subtract it to the other side. And there's a negative 34 over there, and we're going to need a blank. What's the matter, though? What can we not do? We can't complete the square with something out here. Yeah, we're going to have to take out the 2, which will leave what? Okay. So when we complete the square, we still have a 2 out there. What happens in here? And 5 squared makes this 25. But does anybody remember what happens to the other side? We don't just add 25. Because this 2 out here means we really added how much to this left side? 50. So we have to add 50 over here. So then we have negative 8y plus 16, I think. How did I do? Negative 34 plus 50. Okay, now what? Okay, if we take out a negative 8 over here, what'll be left? Y minus 2. Something's still wrong. Yeah, we can't have a 2 here, so what do we need to do with that? Divide it over to the other side. And when we divide it, we can just divide it into this and put all of this over 2 and divide out the 2, all of this over 2, and the 2 will just divide into this negative 8. It's multiplied, so there's no glue holding it together, so we can just get negative 4 and then the y minus 2. So that's the hardest part of that question. Can I skip the rest? Could you go from there? All right, so the hard part was definitely completing the square on that messy one. If we have time, I'll do another one that looks like that. All right, but now we're going to practice writing the equation. The first one gives us the vertex and focus. So right away we know a whole bunch of stuff. If the vertex is HK, I know H is negative 2 and K is 4. Now, the focus has the same H values. Everybody see that? So which kind has a focus with the same exact H value? Up, down, or left, right? Can you look at your recipes? The focus has just plain old H if it opens what? I don't ever do it that way. I would have graphed it. I would have gone -2, +4 is the vertex. The focus is at -2, +3. So which way is it opening?
Down.
If this is the vertex and this is the focus, it's got to be opening this way, right? Because the focus is always inside. Actually, I can write the equation already. Does anybody know why? Not because I'm the math teacher, but what does this distance tell me? Yeah. P is what? 1 unit. Actually, because it's opening down, P is -1. All right, but let's pretend we weren't that smart. Let's pretend we had to use the focus. What is the equation for the focus when it's opening this direction? It's H comma K plus P, right? Well, you know that the focus is at -2, 3 from right over here. And you know H is -2, K is 4. So can you figure this out right here? 3 has to equal 4 plus P. What does that make P? -1?
Oh.
All right, so what's the equation? It's opening this way, you told me. Anybody? X minus -2 would be +2. 4 times P would be -4. Y minus K would be Y minus 4. There's a hard kind that we're going to learn here in a minute when they give you a point on the parabola, but I'm not sure that that hard kind is on the quiz. So I wanted to real quick do this. This is off worksheet 3B if you have it. Otherwise, you can just watch. But when they give us the focus and the directrix, this is a little bit trickier. If the focus is at 1.51, and the directrix is at x equals 1/2. Whoa, pretend I could draw. Where's the vertex, guys? Conceptually, it has to be smack dab in the middle of those two things. Yeah, I'm thinking it's at 1, 1. But if we wanted to write this down, because the directrix is an x equals line, can everybody look at their sheet? Which directrix has an x equals line when it opens which way? Directrix says x equals. Yeah. Doesn't it say right on your sheet when it says x equals h minus p? And for that same one, it says the focus is h plus p, comma k. All right. So the focus, this is h plus p. K is what? And h minus p is right here, 0.5. Now, if you weren't smart enough to figure out where the vertex was on this, you would actually have to do this as a system, maybe. H minus P is 0.5. H plus P is 0.5. Anybody remember doing this? You add these together, you get 2H. The P's drop out. 1 or 0.5 plus 0.5 is 1. So you get H is a half. That's not what we got though, was it? You said it was at 1, 1. What did I do wrong? K is 1. Oh, this is 1.5. The focus is at 1.5. So h plus p is 1.5 right there. So h plus p was 1.5. So then when I added, I should have got 2. Yep, good thing I'm not putting this on the quiz, huh? I don't think I did. So I get h equals 1. And then if I plug that back in, it would leave p as 0.5. If I plugged it back in there. So it's going this way, and we could write the equation. The equation would be y minus k. What's k, guys? Quantity squared equals 4p. What's 4 times a half? And then x minus h, and h was 1 as well over here. Kind of glad we didn't try to do that one on Friday. Actually, you know what? This would be a really good one to practice finding a point on. Because it's going to be pretty narrow, I think, yes? What value do you want to put in here? For a y value a couple units away from 1. Okay, so if I put in y equals 3, say 3 minus 1 is 2 squared is 4 equals 2x minus 1. If I divide by 2, add 1. So at x equals 3, I had y equals 3 is what I started with. So it goes through 3, 3. So this was the vertex. Remember, it goes through the vertex, not the focus. So it is definitely narrower than a couple we've been doing. All right, we're going to move on and talk about when it gives us a point on the parabola. It doesn't give us the vertex. It gives us the focus. All right, so number 6. Is this on 4B maybe? Okay. So if the focus is at 2, 1, and it opens to the right, can you tell me the general equation when it opens to the right? It's y minus k squared equals 4p x minus h, right? Okay. And it tells me the focus is 2, 1. 2, 1 equals, what's the focus equation or the focus recipe, guys? When it opens to the right? H plus P, K. So what do I know right now? I know K is 1. And I know H plus P is 2. All right. Now, I also know that the parabola goes through this point. If that's true, I can put this in for X and this in for Y. So if I go back to this original one right up here, and I put in 8 and negative 7, and I put in what I know here for K. Okay, I'm going to put in X, Y, and K. So I will have Y is negative 7, minus K, which is 1, quantity squared equals 4P, which I don't know. X is what? 8 minus H, which I don't know. Okay. Now, I'm going to stop for a second. What do I already have for an unknown in my equation? P. I don't want to put an H over here because then I'll have both an unknown H and a P. Can anybody make this say H equals? So now I'm going to put that in instead of H. Where this said X minus H back here, I'm going to do X minus 2 minus P. All right. Practice some algebra. What's the left side? Negative 8 squared is 64. Over here I have 4p times the quantity. What's 8 minus 2 minus p? Be careful. 8 minus 2, but it's minus the negative p if I distribute that, plus p. Everybody see what I'm talking about? 8 minus 2, and then it's minus a negative p. Anybody know where we're going with this? How can we find p? We could divide by 4 first, or we're going to have to do it later. Yep. If we divide off the 4, what does the left side become? Anybody know? 16, yes. What's going to happen on the right side? Yes. I'm going to have a p times 6 and a p squared. What's the only way we know to solve when we have a... Yeah, we are either going to have to factor or do quadratic. So before we can do that, it has to equal what? 0. So we're going to have a p squared, I'm just rearranging the order here, a 6p and a minus 16. How does that factor? Does that work? Yeah, positive 8 and negative 2 would make 6 in the middle and negative 16 at the back. So we get p equals either negative 8 or positive 2. We know which one of those it is. Does anybody know how we know which one works? It opens to the, so p has to be positive. All right, so if p is 2, what's h? Yes, if we put this back in here, we get h equals 0. All right, I have very little room left, but I think I can do it. Let's write the equation. I was supposed to be coming up with this equation way up here. So it would say y minus, what's k? 1 equals 4p. So that would be 8. Well, 4 times p would be 4 times 2 or 8, right? No p left in there. And then x minus, what was h again? 0. Okay, the graph paper was just there to help us. It wasn't necessary to graph it. Okay, that was miserable, so I think we should try another one promptly before we forget what we just did. Okay. When it opens down, tell me what you know about the equation. It's x minus h quantity squared equals 4py minus k. All right, and the focus formula for one that opens that way on the sheet says h comma k plus p, and this particular focus was 1, 4. So we know one thing. What do we know? H equals 1, and we know k plus p equals 4. Anybody remember where we went after that? We put this point in for what? X and Y, and we put this in for H. And how did we rewrite this so that we could put it in? 4 minus K. Good job. All right, so all that's going to go in over here. What is X going to be? Negative 3 minus H, which is 1, quantity squared equals 4. We don't know what P is, but what's Y? 1 from our ordered pair right here, minus, oh, we did that wrong. We don't want a K, right? We want a P. So how do we make, what should we have said here? k equals 4 minus p because we want only one variable. All right. Negative 3 minus 1. Negative 4 squared is 16. Over here we have 4p. What happens in that parenthesis? 1 minus 4 is, but then it's minus negative p, which would be plus. Okay. Keaton says we should divide the 4 out right away. So, because we know we're going to have to eventually. Or we can eventually. We don't have to, but it makes it easier to factor later. So on the right, on the left, I have 4. On the right, I have a negative 3p plus p squared. Or 0 equals, anybody want to rearrange that? Which will factor p plus, oh, thank you. P plus 1, p minus 4. Give me a negative 3. So I get p equals negative 1 or positive 4. Anybody know which one it is? It said it opens down, so it has to be the negative 1. And if p equals negative 1, what does that make this? 4 minus negative 1. Be careful. Okay, final equation. Right up here. X minus h equals 4p. Should be 4 times negative 1 or negative 4. Y minus k, which is 5. All right. I'll save this one for warm up tomorrow. Does that sound like a plan? All right. There are a couple applications. I'm just going to go super duper fast because this is so easy. It says you have a satellite receiver. It's located at the focus. Its vertex is the origin and it's pointing up. So it looks like this. If the receiver is 2 units inside here, the equation would just be x minus 0 quantity squared. What's p, guys? Yeah, so 4p would be 8. Opened up. This one is opening down at the vertex. So you would have, again, it's opening up and down. So it's x minus 0 quantity squared equals, what is this telling us? P is 10, but it's opening down. So 4p would be negative 40. All right, just a rough, because those are, I don't know that there's an application on the quiz. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions. I think this last one is like an error analysis question. Everybody good? Do the homework. The summative isn't until next week, but you're not going to have a clue by next week if you haven't looked at any of this, especially these today with solving for P. We have some good review to do next week again and before the quiz. I think the quiz is going to be Wednesday next week.